Hello my friends, it's Rain here. Welcome to Rain Francis Art. Today I'm going to show you how I draw Dwayne Johnson with charcoals. So let's draw. So this is what you'll need for today's drawing. I've got this Arteza black paper. It's black art paper and it's 90 pound, 9 by 12 inches, okay? And I have it landscape today. And as you can see, I already have transferred my stencil onto my page. This is my stencil here. And what I'll do is I will put a PDF file in the description below that you can click on and download if you like. The way I transferred it is I used this. This is white graphite transfer paper. It is so easy to use. It's like the old carbon copy paper, you know. I don't think it's that expensive. I got it on YouTube. I'll put links in the description below too. And here's a little tip if you use it. As you can see, I wrote top here because I can't count how many times I've put it on the wrong way, done a really extensive stencil transfer, and I lift it up and my page is blank. So now I know that this is the top. That's just a little tip for you. If you don't have graphite paper, transfer paper that is, you can check out the card above or in the description below. I will leave a link to a video that I made. I don't think it's more than 2 minutes, showing you how to do that, how to transfer your stencil onto your canvas without transfer paper. Okay, so today I am using my charcoal pencils and I've got a bunch of black colors. I've got HB, 2B, 4B, 6B, and I have a couple of white charcoal pencils here. I will list in the description below after I'm done everything that I've used, okay? I have some blending tools. 2 sets of blending tools. This is for my white charcoal and this is for my black charcoal. I like to keep them separate. I have blending stumps. I have tortillon blenders. I even have some cotton swabs here. I have a brush that I use sometimes. I don't think I'll be using this one either. This is a foam tip blender. Like I said, I will link everything below. Just moving my stuff around here. And I've got some paper towel, and I have a piece of wax paper that I use to put my hand on when I'm drawing and shading so that I don't smudge everything on the page or on my hand. So I'm going to begin. I have a reference photo in front of me and I can't show it for copyright reasons, but I think if you do a Google image search for Dwayne Johnson, maybe portrait of Dwayne Johnson, you'll find this photo online so that you can follow that way. Now usually what I do is I start with my white charcoal because I like to get the highlights in first. So I'm going to start with his eyes because for me I always pick, when I'm doing portraits, I always pick a feature on the face and make sure that stands out really well. And for me, it's usually the eyes. It would depend, you know. Like if I'm doing a portrait of, say, Mick Jagger, I think it might be his lips. But most people, it's their eyes. So I really like the eyes to stand out. And excuse me for a second, I gotta put my glasses on. There we go. The specs are on. Now what I'm doing is I'm just taking my white charcoal pencil. Actually, I'm gonna take my other one because it's sharper, and I'm just highlighting the area of his eyeball that is really, really white. And for this, I'm being very, very particular. I don't want to make any mistake here. Mind you, charcoal is extremely, extremely forgiving. If you put too much white charcoal somewhere, you can always put black over to cover it, right? And vice versa. Very, very forgiving. Now, in this portrait photo, Dwayne Johnson has really, really, his eyes are really black. They're dark. Now, just so you know what my process is, I usually just fill in the charcoal first, Then I blend a little, then I add a little more, then I do this and I do that. So, you know, if it doesn't look finished, even though we're adding a lot of charcoal, don't worry, because we're going to go back in and blend with all of the blending tools. Now, while I'm on his eye, I'm going to give him that little twinkle in his eye here. And to this, I will probably add another layer of charcoal for sure. Now I'm going to go and do the other eye as well. And if I stop once in a while, it's just because I'm checking out the reference photo that's right in front of me. I want to make sure I get it right. Okay. It goes just slightly under his pupil. I really love doing celebrity portraits. Some of them I can do really well. Oops. I pressed too hard and the tip of my charcoal busted. That's all right. Just giving that a little huff and puff once in a while to get the pieces off. Now just a, just a reminder, if you have little kids or pets around, don't blow your charcoal dust, because that's not good for their lungs. I mean, it's not good for ours either, but we're not blowing it directly into our lungs. Just be careful. I have my dogs in here with me, and they're both on my bed snoring, but they're far enough away that I can blow some charcoal here off my page, and it doesn't get anywhere near them. All right, so we have his eyes started. And now what I'm going to do is I'm looking at the reference photo, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of highlighting, if I can figure out where it goes. Yep, a little bit here. He's got a little highlight on his eyelid here. Just a little bit. Okay. And I think we're good right now. I'm going to add white charcoal pretty much everywhere that I see white. And I'm doing shading here, I'm not shading, I'm doing highlighting and shading. Shading is when you use the dark colors, highlighting is when you use the light colors. And I'm turning my pencil once in a while so that I don't wear it down all on one side, because then I'm going to have to stop and sharpen, and I don't really want to do that. I'm going to start here because I'm looking at the picture and there are several shades. There's some really white here, very light highlights here, and then there's a bit of a darker white, and then eventually we go down to black, along the grayscale. What I'm going to do before I fill it all in with white is I'm taking my 4B and I'm just going to make sure I don't lose some of my lines that I did. I'm just going to circle them, and I'm not going to put any white in those circles for now because I don't want to lose these reference points. Okay, back to the white here. It wasn't easy doing this stencil, to be honest. I couldn't get his head right. It kept coming to a point, and I want to do him some justice. He handed out a lot of justice as a wrestler. But I do want to do justice to his beautiful face and his beautiful head. I think he's fabulous. Now I'm just being careful not to put any of the white into those areas there where I have my little reference lines for the creases in his forehead, etc. Now it might not look nice now, but once we blend it'll look really nice, so don't even worry about how it looks. But try not to press too hard, and unless you want to see lines, don't color in with lines, you know what I mean? Don't shade and highlight with lines. I do little circles like this. It may look like I'm doing lines, but I'm actually doing a circular motion here. And I'm not pressing down hard, because if you press down hard, you risk damaging your paper. And also you will see the lines when you are blending. It may not be easy to blend if you've pressed down too hard on your paper. And to get the shades and the highlighting that we want, all we have to do is add layers. If you press down too hard and damage your paper, you can't successfully add layers. Okay? So I've got the top of his head done. I'm going to go and do his ears now. Let me see. Okay. Now, I mentioned that I wanted to use chalk because chalk pencils are great for putting in a medium shade of white. You know, not a bright white, but a sort of darker shade of white, for lack of better terminology right now. I used to use the, I'm just doing this again, I'm putting in a little circle here so I don't lose. And at the same time, I'm just going to fill in those two areas, you know, these areas here. I want those to remain black. Yes, I use charcoal, I use chalk a lot, but the chalk pencils that I had been using, they didn't work very well. I've used them in many of my other videos. You'll see that if you look at the old videos, but I always had to press really hard, and I noticed that the paper got damaged whenever I used the chalk, so I finally decided to give it up, and I started to just shade with what I had with my white charcoal pencils. But I really miss using it, so I did order some more, and I'm hoping that they're better quality than the ones I had, and for the next charcoal drawing, hopefully I'll be able to use them. Now I'm purposely kind of avoiding his eye area right now. I'm going to take my 4B again and just circle those lines. I'm not going to even go there, but anywhere there's a line, I don't want it to be covered up. When I drew shapes here, that's easy for me to go around, but it's the lines that I don't want to lose. That's something you could do too, you know. And when we're shading and all that, we're gonna put the lines back in. Or I mean, we're gonna shade around the lines, no problem. We're not gonna have big circles like this on the final drawing. It may not be easy for you to see right now, black on black, but I can see it pretty well here. So away I go. Like I said, I'm kind of avoiding most of his eye area for now. What I would normally have done was to start with my chalk pencil. The chalk pencil, like I said, it's not as white. So even if I shaded in and highlighted around those little reference lines, I would still be able to see them. So that's why I'm being kind of careful right now. I think he's a great actor, Dwayne Johnson. I haven't seen all of his movies because I'm not a big action star or action film fan. Once in a while I like it, but most of the time I'm more into thrillers, psychological thrillers, and yes, I love horror. Not the torture crap, but you know, I love the horror movies. When there's like a little twist to them. I guess like, you know, Silence of the Lambs type of thing. I like that. Psychological thrillers and suspense movies. Once in a while a good drama, as long as it's not too drama. Not into drama in any form. And I know I'm a woman, but I am not into romantic anything. I just, you know, like Joan Rivers, I stick my finger down my throat. If it's too sappy, I can't stand it. My dog Jack is snoring in the background. The pets relax when I start drawing and making videos. They hear my voice and they just completely relax. I think my favorite movies from The Rock, anyway, that he starred in was, I think, the Jumanji series, because I used to watch, I loved watching the original Jumanji with Robin Williams. I actually own that movie and I watch it a lot. I loved Robin Williams. But you know, Robin Williams, he was sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say typecast, but he did a lot of comedy movies for a long time. But I love his dramatic work. He did this movie called 1 Hour Photo, and oh my goodness, that was something else. I think a lot of actors who kind of fall into a niche should try other things. I'd love to see The Rock in a dramatic role. I would love that. I think he would be great in it. All right. Now, he looks kind of like the Terminator right now. So what I'm going to do is, I always forget, but the Q-tips don't work very well for the white charcoal. So I'm going to grab my blending stump. This is a blending stump. And I'm just going to lightly blend right now. I need to clean these up and shave them down. They're very well used. I'll do a video on how to take care of your blending stumps soon. That's something I wanted to do for a while. And I'm using a circular motion again to do the blending. I hear one of my cats just jump down, so he might be meowing or scratching soon. This is a pet house. And I don't have a studio, I'm just kind of in my little office slash studio slash bedroom. Reality TV, I say all the time. Now, once in a while, I'm trying to find I'm on the off camera here. I'm just wiping off my blending stump onto my paper towel just to clean off some of the charcoal. You can tell kind of when it gets filled with charcoal, it feels a little waxy and it doesn't blend as well. Now I have to remind myself that I'm not doing the finishing blending right now, so I started to go back up and blend more, but I'm not doing that yet. Just the first blend. I was a fan of wrestling for many, many years. I mean, if I could watch it now, I probably would. Just off camera, wiping off my blending stump. Okay. I watched every Friday night SmackDown and every Monday night Raw. I watched them religiously. They were just so entertaining. And The Rock was so good on Raw. I think he was on Raw Maybe he was on SmackDown for a while. They used to switch. And he had such a good character. You know, these wrestlers, they have to be good actors, you know, to keep their character and keep people interested in them, you know, or else they're not going to make it in the business. Let me try the other side here. Oh, that's better. And The Rock, his, what was it called? His catchphrase, I guess. He used to go, "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? Or if you smell what The Rock is cooking." And as soon as people heard that, they'd go crazy because they knew he was on his way out. And he was funny too. He had a funny character. He was kind of a, you know, teacher's pet to Vince McMahon, who was the owner of WWE. They used to get into a lot of trouble. And you know, a thing people don't understand, a lot of people make fun of wrestling, you know, because they're like, oh, it's fake. Well, of course it's choreographed. I think everybody knows that. People make fun of what they don't understand, or I don't know. I don't get the whole making fun of wrestling thing. Of course it's choreographed. I always say to people, you know, when they're saying, oh, you know it's fake, right? I'm like, yes, it's choreographed. I know that, and it's very entertaining. Oh, they're not really fighting. So I always say, well, get into the ring and fight them and see. Sometimes they hit each other pretty hard, you know. Those moves they make, that's gotta hurt. I don't understand. There's a really good movie out there called The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. It's kind of an indie film. It's a comeback film, I think. And it showed the real side of professional wrestling, and it was brutal. It was hard to watch at some points. The things that these guys put their bodies through, you know. Reminds me of Jackie Chan, you know. I read his biography. He has two of them, I think just two, but I read both of them, and he was talking about how what he put his body through to do all those kung fu choreographed moves, and so many injuries, you know, because his philosophy was give the people something interesting to watch, right? Same idea as the pro wrestling. It's exciting to watch. All right, so I've got my first layer on here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let's see, I'm going to take my darkest charcoal, which is a 6B, if I can find it. Yep, here it is. And I'm going to start putting in the very dark areas. I don't want to lose the very dark areas, okay? So one of the very dark areas here, the eyebrows. And at the same time, I'm covering up my stencil lines. Oh, Jack, he's coughing again. My poor Jack. My hound dog, he's got a problem with his nose. Those are the darkest areas, and he's got some dark areas down here, but I think I'm going to be able to make sure that I don't lose those dark areas. But I'm just going to go around and apply white, apply black as I go. So he's got some highlighting above his lip. Okay, and I'm going to blend right away with the blending stump. Little circles. All right, so I think there's going to be more highlighting, but what I want to do right now is I want to add more white to the areas that are really much lighter. So I'm going across those areas right now with my white charcoal. And I'm applying a second layer of white here. And I might apply a third layer after, I'm not too sure. And let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my HB. For those who don't know, HB, hard black. And if I've got, say, my 2B, that's 2 black. And the higher the number, the softer the pencil and the darker the black, okay? HB is the lightest one, and it's a hard pencil, so I don't want to press too hard. But I'm going to add right away some of those crease marks as I continue to add the white. So I'm switching from white to HB, okay? I'm going to do that throughout. Just keeping an eye on what I'm doing here. Now in this instance, I do want to see straight lines. These are the creases. And in between the creases, I'm adding more white. And I'm taking a look at my reference photo each time. He's got one more crease down here. Turning my pencil. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. I know what I'm doing. I always suggest you have a reference photo. You take a look at it, and it helps you to figure out where the dark areas are, where the light areas are. And if you wanted to, if you find a picture that you like, that you want to draw, then what I suggest, I'm just looking here. Okay, what I suggest is that you, if you can, find some photo editing software, unless you have some. There's free stuff online. I can put a link to one of them that's really, really good. It's called iPicky. It's awesome. You can desaturate it so it's black and white for you if you want to do that, if you're using charcoal pencils or if you're using ink and graphite. Then you're looking at a black and white photo and it's easier to see the shading. All right. His nose is quite white. I'm not pressing hard, by the way, just so you know. You don't have to. Right. Okay, taking a look, taking a look. Here we've got some very, very light areas. The light is coming in this way, I'm seeing from the photo, because this side of his face is much lighter than the other side. All right. I'm going to go around here and do the same thing as I did with those lines, just putting in a line so that I remember where it is. And same thing here. Okay. For me, that's the easiest way to do it. All right. I'm going to go and try to do the eyes, around his eyes. Okay. There's that line there. I might make it darker after. And that's going to be HB. Under his eye here, he has a slight bit of highlighting here. Since I have my HB out, I'm going to fill in the areas that I want to be a little lighter black, other than what am I saying? I'm trying to say the shade of black isn't as harsh here, isn't as dark. Having a hard time multitasking. All right, I'm going to put a little white line here. And I might fix his eyes up after, but for now, we're good. I just don't want to see my stencil lines. Okay, that's one eye. Now, since I'm here, why don't I just go ahead and do all of this up here? I'm going to put in just a few lines up here. And over here too. Okay. Now I am going to do this area here. Just add some HB here and get rid of my stencil lines. I'm not attempting to do detail right now, just putting in the dark where I want the dark to be. And then we'll come in and fill in some details. A lot of details, actually. When you're doing a portrait, there are a lot of details. We'll see how it goes. I'm not too sure about this one for now. How it's good. I'm always like that. I'm my worst critic, and that is not a good thing. I draw for fun, you know. And I don't want to be one of those people who insists on perfection, because then it kind of sucks all the fun out of it for me. Usually my portraits end up okay. I say usually. I've had some disastrous ones. I have tried to draw Jimmy Stewart, so many times I can't count. And I just can't do it. I can't get his face right. It's his mouth that I can't get right. I love Jimmy Stewart, but can't draw the man. Don't know why. Another one I had a really hard time with was Michael Caine. I tried to draw Michael Caine, and that didn't work out either. I couldn't get his eyes right. And I did a Michael Jackson too. Oh, that was awful. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get his mouth. It was a photo I found of him. It was during the Thriller days. So he had that orange kind of leather thing going on. And I couldn't get his smile. I just couldn't do it. I don't think I even have that up. I did a whole lesson on it, but I didn't publish it because I wasn't happy with it. A portrait should kind of look realistic. Unless you're purposely not making it realistic, you know, like a cartoon or a caricature or something. And however this ends up, it's still going to be a face. So, just want to make his pupils a little smaller here. I might fix that after. Okay, stop, Rain. I'm not doing details, remember? Okay. We do his ears and try to get rid of those lines. And with regards to the outline here, we're going to take care of that at the end. We do the same thing. We just put some black on it and then blend, and it kind of blends into the background. So we're not going to worry about that right now. Adding some more white. I'll put a little more HB there to make that stand out a little better. All right, his nose. Let's see. There's a little black spot here. A little black spot here. Okay, I'm just going to take a look at the photo. Under his nose, he's got a mustache. He's got like a goatee thing going on. So at this point here, I'm just going to put white so there's a little bit of a background, but I'm going to add more after so that we can really see his goatee. And I'm going to add a little more white here to the top of his lip. And a very, very light bit of white here. I didn't do this area. All right. Now this is his top lip. And he's got a dark area. And a very light bit of white there. And this is his bottom lip. That's under his lip there. So this is kind of his bottom lip here. This is all dark here. A little shadow under there. And there's a little spot here on either side where his goatee doesn't start yet. That's what my lines are for, to sort of guide me with regards to his goatee and where it starts. Yeah, it starts under that squiggly line there. All right. And like I said, I'm going to add his facial hair after. I just don't want to lose my lines here. Do the same thing here. Okay, we're getting there. This is going to be a long one. Whoops. There we go. We almost have our first layer. There, we've got the first layer down. Let me go ahead and start blending. I'm going to try using just my Q-tip for now, because I just want to blend it really not nicely, lightly. And it's certainly nowhere near blended yet, okay? So don't worry if it looks funny right now. We haven't even started doing details yet. Now, once in a while, you're going to have to turn your Q-tip too, because it wears down a little bit, and you don't want to scratch your page. I don't normally use cotton swabs or Q-tips for white, because it doesn't, you can see it really doesn't blend very well, but right now I just want a very light blend here, so we can kind of see him coming to life. Being careful on the eyes, and the thing is, I can always go back again, right? Forgiving. That's what charcoal is, forgiving. And you can kind of see where I put the circles, so I'm going to have to go and erase those with some white, or maybe a little black. Okay. I'm just going over the whole thing very lightly. I'm not worried about blending the blacks together with the white right now, because I have my outline done and I can see all the details now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, wherever I see my little circles that I made, I'm going to go in and lightly add some white charcoal to cover those up, because I don't want it to look like he's got welts all over his face, you know what I mean? We can easily cover these up wherever I see them. Here too. Top of that one. There's one here. We go, and then all of these on this side here. Now I want to make sure that I'm covering the circles that I drew and not the crease lines. All right, now I'm going to grab a fresh cotton swab and just gently blend that in. And if I have to add more layers to cover it, I will. But I know that I'm going to be adding some dark charcoal in some of these areas, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Alrighty, starting to come together. Well, I already know from looking at the reference photo that I need to make his pupils much bigger. And normally I would start the detail work at the very end, but it's bugging me. So I'm going to fix that. I want to make the rock look good. I put way too much white in his pupils. I'm using my 6B, by the way. That's my darkest charcoal. Now I may have to fix that too. It might be too much, but we're just drawing, so let's see what happens. Yeah, that one's way too big. I'm just gonna grab a Q-tip, take some of that off, and then go back in with the white and make that a little better. I hope this isn't going to be one of those drawings that I am uber picky about. And this one I find is too big too. Uh-oh, here we go, Rain. Being picky. I'm just going to try something here. I want to put it a little dark here. It's a little better, but I'm going to fix it after. And his eyes, that little sparkle in his eye, they're much smaller. And I'll fix that later. I'm going to leave the eyes alone for now because this is awful. Okay, I'm not going to leave the eyes alone. I have to really get these right to make myself feel okay. That's a little better. I'm switching between white and 6B, 6B being my darkest black, okay? Let's see, what if I took that white out there? Maybe. Let's leave it for now. Okay, I'm going to take my 2B and I'm going to start putting in some shading, okay? So around his head, it's the darkest area. So this is where we're going to start erasing our outline, the outline here, okay? I've got shading here. I'm not pressing down too hard. And I'm really just looking at my reference photo and I'm looking at where all the light is hitting him and where the dark is hitting him. And it's quite dark here around this side of his head. See what I said? I said I'm not worried about those lines too much because I'm going to be adding some darker highlight, darker shades here. All right, around the top of his head as well. It's a little darker. Let's see, it comes out a little more here, I'd say. And on this side too. I'm using the side of my pencil here. I'm not, pointing the tip down. Okay. Now where else? On this side of his face here, all along the side of his face, it's that darker shade of gray. And it comes down along his chin line here. Just get rid of the outline mark. And his chin line, let's see, down here and around, okay. There's a darker shade here. And wherever I see outlines here, where I'm not using the darker, I'm going to go in with my darkest, my 6B, and get rid of those lines. But for now, let's just concentrate on the shading here. All right. Now on this side, his eyes have a lot of shading, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to try to do the areas that are, I guess, easy for me to do right now. And I'll deal with the eyes after. All right, we've done the chin line, and he's got all his goatee going on there, which we'll fix after. Down here, there's a little dark shading, and then over here. Don't forget to turn your pencil once in a while. So I'm just going to continue adding some shading. I've got the 2B still. Starting to look like him a little bit, I think. I hope. All right. That's the most shading that I can do with the 2B right now. And as I'm looking at him, I think I made his head too tall. I really think I made his head too tall. So what I'm going to do is put some more 2B here. My cat just woke up, so you might hear him meowing in the background. And I'm going to take my darkest black, which is my 6B, and I'm going to kind of put some dark black up here just to make his head look a little less big and pointy. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but we'll see. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take my HB, which is hard black. It's the lightest shade of black that I have. And I'm going to go in and put in a mid-tone here. A mid-tone is just a lighter, you know, you've got mid-tones, you've got dark, medium, and light. So this is a mid-tone of black, which is a lighter shade of black or gray. And I'm just going in. And like I said, I'm looking at my reference photo, and I'm using the side of my pencil so that I don't press down too hard, because HB is hard black and it can destroy your page really quickly. So here I go, putting in some more shading here. And some here along his wrinkles, or the creases in his eye, in his forehead, I should say. This shading goes all the way down to the corner of his eye. And then along his cheekbone, where I put that little reference line. And kind of down here. And along this reference line as well. There's a little crease there. I'm going to take my 2B and make sure I don't lose that crease. There we go. I might be doing that throughout. So we've got that little crease line. And then down here. And I have another crease line that I don't want to lose those crease lines. And let's see. Right here, we left a little spot open, and right here too. Just want to erase that outline there. Okay, there's just a little spot down here. And then just taking a good look on this side of his forehead. A little mid-tone there, just above here. Oh, he's got a lot of that mid-tone here. So, first of all, let's put a little bit on this side of the nose. And on this side of his face, because it's quite dark, he's in the shadow on this side of his face. There are just a few areas that are highlighted, but we'll add those highlights later. This whole side of his face here. And I'm not going to worry too much about this area because, like I said, he's got a goatee and I'm going to fix all that up after. I'm going to add that after. All right, his lip actually, his bottom lip. Going to have to add some highlighting there too on the side. And over here. Even though I'm going to be adding his goatee, it's good to have a base of color or shading underneath, I should say. Now, I didn't do his ears. Let me take care of his ears here. It's a little darker here. Actually, this whole area here is a mid-tone. And I just want to get rid of that stencil line, which I'm going to do with my dark 6B. Drawing in circles, little circles, to try to get rid of that outline there. All right, and we're going to do the other ear. I've got my HB again. He doesn't have, it's mostly dark actually, but his earlobe actually is in some kind of highlight there. So let's go around here. And then up here too, top of his ear. And just here. And again, I'm going to take my dark 6B color and I'm going to erase all of my outline here. When I say erase, you know what I mean. I'm just coloring over it. And now I'm going to do the same thing all around his head, just to get rid of those outline marks wherever I see them, because I'll be starting to do my second blend here. Because we want him to kind of fade into the black in the background. This is a really nice portrait of him if you can find that photo online. Like I said, go into Google Images and maybe type in Dwayne Johnson. I don't think you should put in The Rock because then you'll get all of his wrestling photos. But if you type in Dwayne Johnson portrait, I think you'll find this one. And you can use that as your reference. I wish I could share it with you, but I can't. Okay, so for now we're good. Black charcoal and Q-tips go well together when it comes to blending. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm going to try to just blend the HB areas before I get to the 2B areas. Because I want to blend light first and then dark but I really, really want to blend it together so it looks smooth. And I may have to use my blending stump at the very end to make sure it looks really, really nice. Okay, now I'm going to go over the 2B areas very lightly with my cotton swab. And I'll start with his ears. And I am going to be adding some highlights to the ears. Both ears. See how dark that is? That's why I'm trying to get the HB areas first. And then I'll blend the whole thing. I need another cotton swab here. I buy dollar store cotton swabs for this purpose here. I don't spend a lot on the Q-tips. Q-tips can get expensive. But because I have to turn them so often, and they're no good after, so I want to make sure I'm not spending too much money on them. I can just toss them into the fireplace after, so they're not thrown into a garbage dump. All right, I think he's looking pretty good. All right, I'm going to take my blending stump, but not this one. That's my white charcoal blending stump. I've got a really good used one here. So I'm going to go in right now and just blend around to blend in that black from the outline that we covered. Okay, now off camera I am just wiping it down to make sure I don't have really dark black there, and I'm going to go in and just lightly blend all of these midtones that I put in all across his face and his head. Everything. And I'm wiping it off now and then so that I don't get dark colors covering my highlights. But I am going to go in and finish the highlighting after, and we have to add his goatee. Just wiping it off camera, just onto a paper towel. And I want to make some parts darker, like his nostrils a little darker, and maybe his pupils a little darker. And I'll do the final blending after. Now I'm going to work on the highlighting a little bit. I want to add some more light colors. So right in the middle of his forehead here, it's quite light. We've got highlighting here, but I don't want to cover the creases. So I'm just kind of going in between the creases. And there's a little more over here. And his nose, right in the middle of his nose, he's got some highlights. This should be a lot brighter, I think. And if you're using white charcoal on black, sometimes you might notice you get some black charcoal on the tip. Just wipe it off on a paper towel and you'll be fine. His whole nose is really, really bright. There are actually some brighter highlights there that we'll put on after, but we're going to start with adding these highlights here. Okay, he's got a few highlights here. And like I said, this earlobe must be in the light because it's very bright in the picture. This area here too. There's a little spot on his ear here. That's light. Okay. Where else? Some here. Around his cheek area. Oh yes, he's got quite a big highlight here, so there must be some light coming in on the other side too. Just on this side of his head. Don't forget to turn your pencil. That's why that earlobe is highlighted. All right. He does have some highlighting here, and I know we're going to be covering it with his goatee, but I want to get that highlight in there right now. Okay, now I'm going to try to do some work on his eyes. I'm going to make his eyes just a little brighter. Like I said, I'm keeping an eye on my reference photo here. And I'm going to grab my really dark 6B and make sure that I get his pupils super dark. Because those eyes are the highlight of his face. Just giving that a little huff and puff once in a while. Let's see if I can fix this up a little bit. I'm going to leave his eyes alone for now. And what I'm going to do is take my blending stump and just go over all the highlighting that I did. Make sure it blends nicely with the rest of his face and his head. Because, you know, we don't want to see this, you know, we don't want to see that. We want to make sure that it blends very well. I'm not pressing down hard, just in case anyone wants to know. I'm going to wipe that off a little bit. And at this point, I'm going to blend just the highlighting areas. I'll go in with my other blending stump after and do all the rest, but just want to get that white area blended. So that it looks more natural, you know. Gonna wipe that off and go in. I'll fiddle around with his eyes after, but right now I just want to do the other areas where I put the highlights. Because we want to put another layer of bright highlight, but I'll do that at the very end when I'm done with his goatee, because I'm really interested in seeing how that's going to turn out. I don't normally do hair very well. Did I say that? Very well? No, it's true. I have a hard time doing hair and teeth and hands. So when I do portraits, I like to make sure that the mouths are closed and there's no hands in the portrait itself. Okay, so now I'm going to work on his goatee. Now for the goatee, I'm going to start with my darkest, 6B, okay? Now, the goatee starts under his nose, and I'm just going to be doing little bits of hair like this, like little stubbly things here. It comes kind of right up to his nose here. And it goes to about, I'm just going to do a little outline first. That's his lip. It goes to the side of his lip here. Just to the side of his lip here. And kind of down here. That's his chin. It goes about here, straight down here. Okay, now I have it outlined. I'm just going to put in the little stubbly areas everywhere. Above this area here where I highlighted on his lip, he's got his goatee. And then under this lip here, he's got that shadow, and the goatee kind of goes. I have my squiggly line there, so that was where the goatee went under his lip. All right, so why don't I just do this? I'm going to put mid-tones in as well. Then we're going to blend and maybe add some more. It looks kind of silly right now, but don't worry, we're going to try to make it look more realistic. The reason I'm doing little stubbly things like this is because I want to be able to see what's underneath. Because hair isn't solid, right? You can always see something underneath. All right, so I'm going to take my HB and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add just some stubbly areas so that we have a couple of tones in there, a couple of mid-tones. It's not all just dark black. Just looking at the goatee, it's kind of straight here, so it has to be a little straighter here because he's well groomed. Okay, so I'm just going to grab cotton swab and very lightly blend that in the direction that I put the stubble. All right, so going to do that again. Another light blend, because I don't want it to look like he's got, you know, straight lines there, but I want some of them to show. All right, so now I'm going to take my white, and I'm just taking a look. He's got some white here, just highlighted on this chin. All right, and a little bit here, a little highlighting here, and over here on the side. I'm going to take a fresh Q-tip and just gently blend that in. And I'm not going to touch it anymore for now. All right, so now I'm going to concentrate on some very dark shading areas, okay? I've got my 6B, which is my darkest, and I'm looking again at my reference photo, and I want to put in some really dark areas like his eyebrows are extremely dark. So I'm going in and I'm putting that in. And I'm just kind of randomly putting in some lines here. I don't want it to be a big, Groucho Marx looking type of thing, And I'm looking at his eyes. He's got some very dark highlighting, dark shading here. And a little bit here. Those pupils are still bugging me. I'll figure that out. Very dark around his eye here. Pupils are dark too. I wanted to go in and do his nostrils again. And pretty dark areas under his nose here. This is highlighting. I'm not trying to erase the goatee. Just doing some not highlighting, shading. Pretty dark here under his lip. Some really dark areas here. Very dark here. And under his chin here, we've got some very, very dark highlight. I keep saying highlighting, shading. And then we've got a little darkness over here. Okay, we're good. His ear maybe. And dark over here. Now I'm going to go in with my Q-tip again. And I'm going to try to fix all the areas that I'm not happy about. We have some work to do on his lips too, and I'm still not happy with his eye. I don't know which eye, both of them. I'm going to think about that one. All right, well, I'm looking at the reference photo, and there's some things that I do have to fix. I definitely think I made his head too tall. So I'm going to go and just darken the top up a little bit. Because he doesn't have a really, tall head like that. I'll just put some into the shading here. And I can always fix it if I don't like it. I think that looks a little better. I'm just going to blend that with my cotton swab. There we go. I think that looks a little better. And I'm going to grab my blending stump. Just go around and blend around it so it's not so harsh there. Okay. Now I have to add some more highlighting. So I need to add really, really light colors. Really light highlighting, say, right in the middle of his nose here. And I'm going to take a cotton swab and just gently blend that and add more, because I really want a highlight to show. going to blend around the edges and then very gently swipe across because I want it to show as a highlight. And another really bright spot is this earlobe here. And again, just taking the cotton swab, whoops. I hope my camera didn't shake there. My dog shook up and she's right beside me and she made a big move there. All right, putting in just a little highlighting around his ear here. And those eyes, we've got to work on those eyes. But first I'm going to work on the lips. I'm going to put a little more highlighting here on his nose. And just gently swipe across and around the edges, okay? Now for his lips, he's got a highlight above his lip here. And it goes till about here. And again, I'm going to be wiping that a little bit with the cotton swab. And we have to work on that. So he's got, let me take my dark 6B. Under that, his lip is pretty dark here. Because the highlight is thinner. It's not quite as thick as I drew it in there, so. And his lip, I always do these lines on the lips like this. Because if you look at a close-up of lips, we all have those lines. And on the bottom too. And then I blend them. But I'm going to take my white as well and do a few lines on the bottom part of the lip. Just there, and maybe on one side of the lip here. And then take a cotton swab and blend that. I don't want the lines to show, but I want it to have a little bit of texture. Kind of like what I did with the stubble. And I'm going to take some more white. Oh, my dog's awake and she just shook. Okay. I figured out what I don't like about the eyes. His eyes are a bit droopier, okay? So he's got more eyelid showing. So I'm going to take my HB and just put a line for myself here. And I'm going to take my white charcoal. And right now I'm just highlighting his eyelid. It might look terrible right now, but it's just a beginning because he does have droopy eyelids. Okay? And like I said, I can always fix it by adding more black. All right? Just like that. But he does have those droopy eyelids, so I'm going to try my best to make him look good in my drawing. My dog is drinking his water, so I'm sure you can hear that. Now, let's put a line here. This is 4B, by the way, 4B. Okay, I think that's actually starting to look a little better. I'm going to take my 6B, dark 6B, make sure that pupil is nice and black. Wow, that's looking a lot better. Sometimes you have to step back a little bit, you know, and like I stopped my filming so that I could take a second look because I really didn't like what I was doing with his eyes. Okay, that looks a lot more like him, I think. Now I want to take my 6B again and put some more shading around his eyelid up here on this side, because I've got some nice shading going on here. And I want to do the same thing over here. Get a little darker area here so that the lighter parts stand out more. And I am looking at my reference photo, looking for darker areas on both sides here. All right. And I think we have to darken up the area under his eyebrow here a little more. Just like that there, and on this side too. All right. Yeah. Playing with details here now. If you're following this, I hope that you're enjoying it and you're learning, and that you're as much obsessed about details as I am. Because, you know, when we're doing portraits, we want them to look nice. We want them to look how they're supposed to look, right? Sometimes you don't get it right. Sometimes, you know, you're spot on. But it's all about trying, right? Okay, more cotton swab action here. Just going around the white areas first, and then I'll do the dark areas as my dog walks next to me on the floor. Okay, let's see. Again with the 6B. I'm trying to get rid of some of that light area. It's too light. Right. I'm going to take my blending stump this time, but I'm going to wipe it first so it's nice and clean, and then blend that area under his eye. Here too, and above. Well, I think it's pretty good. Let me take a second look. I'm looking again, and I want his bottom eyelid to be a little straighter. So I've got my HB, and I'm just doing a little highlighting here so that his bottom eyelid is just a little straighter. Because if I look at my reference photo, his bottom eyelids really aren't too round, they're straight. Okay. Now I'm going to highlight his lips a little more. And as I go, I'm blending. Okay, so I am still going to be working on his eyes a little bit because they're still not right to me, but I am going to give up at some point. And if it doesn't look exactly like the rock, well, it looks like somebody. How about that? All right. Got that highlight here. Highlight here. A little less dark here. And a little less dark here. Got white highlighting up here and around here. I want to make this whole area a little lighter too. Okay, now what else? He looks too angry if you ask me. So I'm gonna shorten up the bag under his eye, so to speak. Get rid of some of that. It happens once in a while, you know, I go in and I change a lot of things as I'm looking at my portrait here. Just adding some highlighting. And this, the side of his neck is a little weird looking here. I'm going to just straighten that out a little bit. Maybe on this side too, a little, looks a little funny there. He doesn't have that wide of a neck. Okay, so let's go in and lightly blend those highlights. And then I'll go in with the blending stump after and finish that up. Okay, and I'll just blend this area. Oh, not with that one. I had white on that. I'll use this blending stump here. Yeah, his face looks a little better now. I've got my white blending stump. I call it my white blending stump. The blending stump I use for white. White charcoal. All right. I was looking here and he looks like he's kind of concerned. And I think it's because I didn't do his eyebrows right. I don't know. He looks a little worried in this, and I don't want him to look worried. Let me see what I can do to fix that. You know what it might be? It might be these lines here. Well, if you've made it through this far, thank you for watching all of my little obsessions. Trying to get things right here. And I'm going to work a little bit on his goatee again, and I'm going to take the HB and just do some more little lines like this. And just with a Q-tip or, you know, cotton swab, just give it a little blend. Oh, there's a spot here I didn't blend. So I'm just going to try to fix a few things that are bugging me here, which is highlighting. I really want to get his eyes done well, you know, and I hope I'm not going to mess things up here, but I just really want to get his eyes done well. And I think that his pupils should be a little wider here. Okay. And above his lips here, he's got a lot of highlighting there. Just under too. Why don't I just put a little highlighting under his lip here? And then I can put that dark HB shadow, not HB, 6B shadow underneath here. He's got a little highlight here on his nose. He's not that easy to draw. I'm saying that now, but I thought it would be a little less difficult to draw him. It's those eyes. I want to get them right. Got wide pupils. And I'm going to take my 2B and darken up those little highlights in his eye there. I think that's a little more realistic with his eye color. I've got my 6B and I'm just rounding up his pupils at the bottom. All right, I've got a little highlight up here that I forgot. And over his eyebrow and above this eyebrow. And again, some more down here. And a little bit on his lip here. Let's try to blend those a little more. Does that look a little more like him? I hope so. Okay, finishing touches here because it is possible to do too much and ruin it, which I'm getting close to doing, I think. So I want to make the whites of his eyes really white. And I'll have to fix the pupil again because I just took the round out of it. Okay, a little more white here. Okay. Trying to give him more white around his eye. But the more you add and the more you blend, the harder it is. Oh, I think that's okay. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere after how long? I've got a little tortillon blender that I'm going to gently, gently use to blend that white a little bit. And I want to make the black of his eye blacker. So here I go. And I'm not going to blend it. I'm going to leave it the way it is. So hopefully it'll be nice and dark. And I just want to fix this one because it's not round enough. I'm sorry guys if I keep going back and forth like this, but I'm really trying to get it right here. Almost. Okay, I think I'm close to being happy with this. Let me just blend a little here. And I'm gonna, for the last touch, I think I've said that before, I've got my 2B, and I'm just gonna put a little darkness here. Just a little bit. There we go. Maybe a little dark crease here under his eye. And blend it, and then I'm going to call that finished. Well, I think I'm done here. I think he looks pretty good. I just wanted to show you something that I did. I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. I actually added some white here because his lip looked a little funny, so I added white all here, and then I took cotton swab and I blended it so that his lip looks a little more full. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you noticed that before, but it looked a little funny. It looked a little misshapen. So I had to fix that. So there is my attempt at drawing Dwayne Johnson. It was really not too easy, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out. And if it doesn't look exactly like him, well, it looks like somebody. Thanks for watching, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a like and subscribe if you're interested. And if you're interested in kitchen and garden videos, I have another channel called Rain's Kitchen and Garden, and I will put that in the description below, a link. And I also have a kids art channel called Rain Francis Art for Kids. I will link that below too. Thanks for being here, my friends. I'll see you next time. Bye.